In this lesson, we're going to learn about the simple pendulum. And by the end of it, you should know what a simple pendulum looks like. You should be able to define what the period of it is, and you should know what the pendulum mass is called. You should also be able to identify what factors affect the period of that pendulum. So we'll do this by simply asking questions and answering them. And the first question is, what is a simple pendulum? A simple pendulum is simply something that is hung from a fixed point by a string and is attached to a mass, and this is just simply displaced from an equilibrium position at a particular angle. Alright, and from there we define a few things. So for example, what is a mass? The mass of a body depends on the number of atoms and the size of atoms that make up the body, and you can only therefore change that if it is you affect the number and the size. The mass of a body can be defined as the measure of the inertia, which is the ability of the body to maintain its position under the action of a force. Alright? And the next question would be, how do you define the period? Well, for any oscillating body, the period of oscillation is the time it takes for the body to complete one oscillation. So for example, in the case of the pendulum will oscillate starting from one side and go all the way to the next side from there, and then go right back again. So the symbol that we use to represent the period of the pendulum is simply the capital T, and the unit is measured in the seconds S. So how can this period be affected, and what can it be affected by? The period of the pendulum can be affected by the length of the string that is attached to the pendulum bob, and also the angle of displacement that you open it up to. Alright, and you have to remember that the mass of the pendulum bob does not affect the period of the pendulum. So is there a relationship between these quantities? And the answer is yes. The one that we will be using at this level right now is this equation here that states the period of the pendulum is equal to 2 by pi, which is a constant, multiplied by the square root of the length of the string divided by g, which represents the acceleration due to gravity. And you'll see more about that later. So for this lesson, these are the references, and the one that I want you to, this one here is just simply notes. This one here is the one that I want you to pay attention to most, and we'll see something about this just now. This here is a pendulum, right? And what you can do is you can just simply do some simulations. You can pause it, you can play it, you can even adjust the amount of displacement you want to give it, you can adjust the length of the pendulum, and you can adjust the mass of the pendulum. And you can adjust each one of them and just see for yourself. When you press this here, the start button, you can just see for yourself whether or not that pendulum is being affected by any of the quantities that you change. So let's say for instance I want to change the mass, increase the length. Notice the time right now, 2.29, and I press start, and it's going to go all the way up until 3.05. So we notice that the length actually does affect it. Alright, so you can go through and you can mess around with some of these features, and you can observe the pendulum for yourself. That's all I have for this lesson. Oh, and these are some textbooks that you can look at. Alright, and if you have any questions or comments, you could simply message me and I'll get back to you. Thank you.